The 365-Day Game Plan. Master your year or let it master you. Stop. Right here, right now. If you're watching this, something inside you is screaming that this year cannot look like last year. That the old cycle, explosive January promise, slow motion fade by March, the crushing regret by December, dies today. You don't need hype. You don't need inspiration. You need something that actually works. You need a system, a real one, not the kind that looks brilliant on day 3 and crumbles by Valentine's Day. This is the 365-Day Game Plan, not engineered for a perfect year, but for a real one. The kind where you don't just talk about change, you become it. You'll discover how to move forward even when your motivation vanishes, how to adjust when life throws everything at you, how to stay relentlessly consistent when nobody's watching, when nobody cares, when everything inside you wants to stop. By the time January rolls around again, you won't need to explain anything to anyone. You'll know something deeper, that you became someone who shows up for themselves every single day. Stay with this. This might genuinely be the last time you ever feel stuck. Chapter 1. Design your year before it owns you. Here's the brutal truth nobody talks about. The difference between people who build remarkable years and those whose years slip away into nothing has nothing to do with talent, luck, or intelligence. It's preparation. Most people don't walk into a new year with vision. They stumble in the same way they walk into any random Tuesday. No direction, no focus, no reason for how they spend their hours. Then they're shocked when the year controls them instead of the other way around. Here's what happens when you don't plan. Days fill themselves. Problems multiply. Other people's priorities colonize your time. Before you even realize it, months are gone. And you tell yourself you're weak. But you're not weak. You're human, and humans respond to whatever feels urgent unless they've already decided what matters. A year isn't mysterious. It's just 365 ordinary days stacked one after another. Each morning, each day asks the same question: what will you do with me? If you have no answer prepared, the day answers for you. It hands you chaos, distractions, unfinished tasks, and regret. Planning your year is how you answer that question before it's even asked. You're not predicting the future. That's impossible. You're choosing direction. You're deciding what deserves your energy and what absolutely doesn't. That choice eliminates confusion, and confusion is the invisible killer of momentum. Think about how it feels to wake up without direction. There's a quiet dread. Your mind races. Even small decisions feel heavy. Time bleeds away before breakfast. Now contrast that with waking up knowing exactly what this year is about. There's calm, there's clarity, your body feels steadier, you move with purpose and intention. That difference? It's not motivation, it's structure. Motivation chases you, structure carries you. Planning starts with ruthless honesty, not the comfortable kind, the real kind. Where are you actually standing? What did you avoid confronting last year? What ate your time, your peace, your energy, without giving anything back? Yes, it's uncomfortable, but pretending costs far more than truth ever will. Ask yourself 3 simple, practical questions. What must change? What must improve? What must stop? These aren't dramatic, they're precise. They transform vague wishes into actionable intentions. Too many people say they want a better year, but never define what better actually means. Better health requires different daily actions than better income. Better focus demands something entirely different from better relationships. Without definition, effort gets scattered like seeds in the wind. Scattered effort produces scattered results. Real planning means breaking those big aspirations into the tiny behaviors that actually live in your days. Not someday, but today. Some people avoid planning because they fear accountability. They think writing things down creates pressure. It does, but accountability isn't pressure. It's freedom. It's what keeps you from drifting so far off course that you can't find your way back.
There's actual relief in having a plan because your brain finally stops doing mental gymnastics every single moment. A plan creates boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're protection. They protect your time, they protect your attention, they protect your future self from burnout and quiet desperation. A plan doesn't make life rigid and lifeless, it makes life manageable. Without one, every interruption feels catastrophic. With one, interruptions are just interruptions, manageable, temporary, not identity-shattering. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a clear one. Perfection paralyzes people into inaction. Clarity propels them forward. A simple plan you actually follow beats an elaborate plan you abandon by February. Planning your year is an act of profound self-respect. It says, my time matters, my growth matters, my life is not random. That message changes everything. How you speak, how you decide, how you move through the world. Without a plan, you live in reaction mode. Emails dictate your mornings, problems set your mood, other people's schedules become your schedule. That creates constant frustration, not because the world is unfair, but because you abandoned direction. A planned year still faces challenges, but they land differently. You expect the struggle, you're prepared for it. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing where you're heading. That confidence isn't loud or flashy, it's steady. It shows up in your voice, your decisions, your posture. Planning actually helps you see progress. Without one, you feel perpetually busy but hollow. With one, you can measure movement. Even small movement feels rewarding when it points towards something real. People often blame their lack of discipline. What they usually lack is direction. Discipline is simple when the path is clear. Confusion makes discipline feel like torture. A planned year gives you something solid to return to when you drift, and you will drift. Everyone does. That's the human part. Here's what planning actually prevents: regret. Regret usually arrives when you realize time was spent without intention. Planning transmutes time into investment. There's also peace in knowing that not everything will fit your plan, and that's okay. A plan teaches you to say no without guilt, and saying no protects your yes. A year planned in advance generates momentum immediately. Early momentum builds belief. Belief makes consistency feel natural rather than forced. Consistency changes everything. You're not planning to control life, you're planning to lead yourself. Leadership always begins with self-direction. Planning is a quiet, private decision that transforms how the entire year unfolds, how stress lands, how setbacks are handled, how unexpected wins feel.
When you sit down to plan, you're actually speaking to your future self. You're saying, I cared enough to prepare for you. That builds deep trust, and trust is the most powerful force available to you. A year without planning ends with the same haunting questions. Where did it go? Why didn't I do what mattered? A year with planning ends with clarity. You know exactly what you invested your energy in. Planning isn't about control, it's about intention. Intention gives shape and meaning to effort. Effort without intention leads to exhaustion and emptiness. If you want next year to feel different, your preparation must be different. Same approach, same results. A new plan creates different outcomes. When you plan, you create a standard for your days. Standards guide behavior. Without standards, moods take over. Planning before the year starts puts you ahead mentally. While others are reacting, you're acting. There's something deeply grounding about knowing what this year stands for. It steadies you when distractions pull. It reminds you why showing up matters. Your life is not a rehearsal, it's happening now. Plan your year with patience, with honesty, with belief that small daily effort accumulates into something real. When you enter a year with a plan, you walk in prepared, not hoping, not wishing, but prepared. Prepared beats hopeful every single time. When you reach the end of the year, you won't wonder if you tried. You'll know. And that knowledge brings something deeper than happiness. It brings earned pride.
So don't enter 2026 hoping it will be different. Enter it knowing you decided how it would be lived. Chapter 2. Convert the year into daily actions. Here's where most plans die. Big goals look electrifying on paper. Your vision feels powerful, real, possible. Then week 3 arrives, reality intrudes, and suddenly you feel completely stuck. Not because you're unmotivated or lazy, you're not, but because you never translated those magnificent goals into something you can actually do. The problem is simple. Real life doesn't happen in years, it happens in days. If your grand vision doesn't live inside your actual day, if it's not something you can do on an ordinary Tuesday when nothing special is happening, then it doesn't live at all. You don't need more goals, you need systems. You need something so simple, so small, that you can repeat it even on days when you feel empty. Here's the secret the winners know. The person who succeeds by year's end isn't the one who had an explosive January. It's the person who did small, simple things longer than everyone else. This requires a shift in thinking. Stop asking, what do I want this year? Start asking, what am I willing to do every single day to make that happen? That second question brings you back to reality. It forces your goals to become real, measurable, possible. Because if you can't break it down into a daily action, it's just a fantasy. Daily actions rebuild your identity. Every time you follow through with a small habit, you're teaching your mind who you're becoming. You stop being just someone who wants results. You become someone who delivers on commitments. That's where confidence actually comes from. Watching yourself do what you said you'd do, especially when it wasn't glamorous. And here's what most people get wrong. You don't need 20 daily actions. You need the few that, if done consistently, would genuinely move your life forward. The actions that matter. And they rarely take hours. Most life-changing actions take less time than you waste scrolling when you're bored. Ask yourself the real question. What are the few specific daily actions I'll commit to that match what I actually want? Not what sounds impressive, not what would look good on social media. What will you realistically do on an average Tuesday when life feels normal and boring? That's the real test. Can you build a system that works not just on your best days, but on regular days, on tired days? That's what matters. A 365-day game plan is about consistency over intensity. It's better to read 10 pages every single day than binge 5 books in one weekend and then do nothing for 2 months. It's better to do 10 push-ups every day for a year than to torture yourself for 2 weeks, burn out completely, and quit. It's better to write for 10 minutes daily than to wait for some mythical perfect moment to write your entire story. Your daily system must fit into your real life, not some imaginary ideal version. You're going to have exhausted days. You're going to have days when work destroys you. You're going to have days when you're emotionally drained. So don't build habits for your best self. Build them for your real self. What can you stick with when you're depleted? What can you do when motivation has vanished entirely? That's your real plan. Here's the key that transforms everything. Write it down. Don't keep it floating in your head. Make it visible. Make it specific. Drink more water is vague. Drink 3 bottles of water every day is clear. Exercise more is meaningless. Walk 20 minutes before work each morning is actionable. Save money is abstract. Put $5 in savings every single day is measurable. When you make it specific, it becomes measurable. When it's measurable, tracking becomes effortless, and tracking creates progress. Progress, even tiny progress, is genuinely motivating. You don't need to feel like you're winning every day. You just need to feel like you're moving forward. 1 inch forward is still forward. When you break the year into daily actions, anxiety dissolves. You stop living in overwhelm about the future. You stop saying there's so much to do. You start asking what needs to be done today. That shift hands your power back. You can't possibly live all 365 days at once. You only get to live one today. So focus there. One of the most transformative questions you can ask yourself each night is, did I do what I promised myself today? If the answer is no, don't spiral into self-judgment. Just ask, what got in the way? How can I adjust tomorrow? That reflection refines your system, because a game plan isn't something you create once and forget about. You evolve it constantly. You might start the year convinced a certain habit will stick, and then realize after 2 weeks it's just too much. That's not failure. Adjust it. Make it smaller. Make it sustainable. There's no shame in starting small. The only success metric is consistency. What feels unnatural at first becomes automatic with repetition. Your brain begins to expect it. You start doing it with less internal resistance. Eventually, you do it even on days when you don't feel like it. That's when it becomes who you are. Some people chase inspiration. Others build systems. Guess who actually gets results? It's not the person waiting for perfect conditions. It's the person who breaks the goal into daily actions and stays with it through boredom, through difficulty, through the silence when nobody's applauding.
Every single day matters. That's not motivational fluff. That's truth. If you waste a day, you're not just losing time. You're reinforcing the habit of wasting time. But when you use a day well, you build something. 1 good day leads to 2. 2 leads to 5. 5 leads to 10. That's how momentum gets created. Slowly, quietly, daily. The daily actions you choose should reflect your actual values, not what impresses people. You're not performing for an audience. You're building a life. Choose actions that align with who you want to become. A simple checklist works magic. Nothing fancy. A piece of paper, a notebook, a phone note. Write down your 3 to 5 daily actions. Every evening, check off what you did. That simple act creates accountability. It also creates a record. A week later, a month later, you can look back and see your effort. You have proof. Remember this. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If your system is clear and doable, your chances multiply. If your system is vague or too demanding to sustain, you quit, even with powerful motivation. Think of your year as a series of small choices, not massive once-a-year decisions, but tiny, daily ones. Write or scroll, walk or sit, save or spend, read or zone out. These micro-choices write your story. In the end, success has nothing to do with pressure. It has everything to do with pattern. Patterns create outcomes. The pattern of showing up daily is what creates a life you're genuinely proud of. So break the year down. Make it small enough to hold in your hand. When you wake each day, don't try to live the whole year. Just do the few simple things you promised yourself. Do that. By the time 2026 arrives, you'll walk into it stronger, clearer, and more proud of who you've become. Chapter 3. Construct days that honor your time. Most people don't realize how quickly days vanish until they look back and wonder where all the time went. An entire day disappears. Nothing meaningful happened. And they failed not because they didn't care or lacked ambition. They failed because their time was spent on things that never actually mattered. That's what wasting a day means. Not that you did nothing, but that you didn't use your hours in a way that moved your life forward. So, here's the paradox. You don't need to be busy to be productive. Actually, many of the busiest people feel the least progress. Constant motion isn't progress, it's just motion. Building days that don't waste your hours starts by becoming crystal clear about what you want your time to do for you. If you don't decide, everything else around you will. Notifications, emails, other people's emergencies, random tasks. They'll flood your attention before you've even had a chance to take control. Waking up without a plan is one of the easiest ways to lose a day.
Without direction, the first thing you check pulls you into its world. One message becomes 20 minutes of replies. One scroll becomes 30 minutes of distraction. Suddenly it's noon and you're already drowning in catch-up. That stress you feel midday, that sense that you're falling behind, it starts with your first 3 choices of the morning. If you want to stop wasting time, you must own your morning. Not with an elaborate routine, but with one clear commitment. Know your top priorities before the day begins. When you wake knowing exactly what deserves your attention, saying no to distractions becomes effortless. Your brain doesn't have to negotiate every decision. It just follows the direction you set. You don't need to do everything. You need to do the right things. The actions that align with your bigger vision. The ones that build skills, protect your energy, strengthen your relationships, deepen your character. These actions aren't usually urgent. That's precisely why they get buried, but they're the ones that actually construct the life you want. Here's how to check yourself. At the end of each day, ask, did today bring me closer to who I want to become? That question won't always feel good, but that honesty is how you improve. You can't fix what you won't admit. You can't improve what you won't measure. Building a day that honors your time means protecting your attention. This doesn't mean cutting out all relaxation or joy. It means creating focused blocks where your mind is completely present. Deep work and shallow work are not the same thing. You can spend 3 hours multitasking and accomplish less than 1 hour of pure, undistracted focus. Protecting blocks of time where you work deeply will always generate more return than fragmented, scattered attention. Understand your own pattern. Everyone has specific times when they think clearest, move strongest, focus deepest. Use those hours for what matters. Don't hand your best energy to your least important tasks. That's one of the biggest, quietest time killers, giving your peak hours to things that don't actually require your peak performance. Stop chasing productivity for 16 hours. Instead, aim to be truly intentional for a few focused blocks. Most real progress comes from a few strong hours used brilliantly and without distraction. The rest of your day should support that focus, not sabotage it. Take real breaks, not the kind where you check your phone and overstimulate your mind, but genuine mental rest. Another game changer, remove unnecessary decisions. Every decision depletes mental energy. The more decisions you make in a day, especially trivial ones, the more exhausted your brain becomes. Simplify what you can. Create rhythm in your days so you're not constantly deciding what comes next. When you establish rhythm, decision fatigue drops and your mind has more strength for what actually matters. Also, stop glorifying urgency. Just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it's important. Some things can wait. Some can be delegated. Some don't need to be done at all. Learn to pause and ask, does this actually matter? If the answer is no, let it go. Your time is your most limited resource. Don't spend it proving you're perpetually available. Start replacing time-wasting patterns with purpose-driven ones. Even 15 minutes daily of something genuinely meaningful adds up. 15 minutes of reading, 15 minutes of writing, 15 minutes of silence, 15 minutes with someone you love. These small choices seem minor, but they reshape how you feel about yourself. They build a sense of control. They create clarity. Don't mistake busyness for effectiveness. Filling your day with activity might feel productive, but ask yourself, are these activities helping me grow? Are they building skills? Are they moving me towards what matters? Or are they just loud enough to keep you from feeling stuck? Wasting time doesn't always look like lying on the couch. Sometimes it looks like over-planning, obsessive checking, endless thinking without action. Efficiency isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most with full attention and purpose.
Get honest about your hours. You don't need to obsess over every minute, but be truthful. How much time goes toward things that give nothing back? That awareness helps you start cutting what drains you and protecting what builds you. Respecting your time is respecting yourself. When you waste your own time, you tell yourself, my goals can wait, my peace can wait, my progress can wait. But they can't. Not if you want to live with intention and meaning. People say, I don't have time. What they usually mean is, I didn't use it well. That's not about shame, that's about power. You have more control than you think, but control only works when it's backed by intention. You don't need a complicated system, just one that keeps you centered, a clear start to your day, a focus list you trust, protected blocks for deep work, and a brief check-in when day ends. These simple actions, done daily, completely shift how your time feels. Avoid filling your calendar just to avoid sitting with yourself. Leave room for stillness. Leave space to think. Silence in your day isn't laziness, it's preparation. It helps you reset, reflect, and return with clarity. Finally, remember, your time is a message. How you use it tells the world what matters to you. More importantly, it tells you what you believe is worth showing up for. Build days that make you feel proud when you go to sleep. Days that weren't perfect, but were honest. Days where your hours were used on things that mattered, not just tasks, but people, progress, purpose. When you learn to protect your time, you protect your potential. Don't let another year pass filled with busy days and hollow progress. Take ownership of your hours. Use them wisely. By year's end, you won't wonder if you wasted time. You'll know you invested it. Chapter 4. Follow through when your energy is gone. There will be mornings when you wake up drained, not just physically, though that too, but mentally and emotionally. Days when your mind feels heavy, your energy feels hollow, and every fiber of your being says, rest, take it easy today. On those days, the pull to abandon your plan, to pause, to skip what you promised yourself, feels stronger than it ever has. And here's what happens to most people. They follow that feeling, again and again, and slowly, methodically, the plan they committed to disappears. Following a plan when you feel great is easy. Following it when you're depleted is where real growth lives. That's when your discipline gets tested. That's when you discover whether your habits are built on motivation or on something deeper, commitment. Motivation is temporary. It arrives and leaves like the weather. Commitment is different. It's a choice you make, then remake, especially when it's inconvenient. You don't need to be flawless every day, but if you only take action when you're feeling energized, you'll only make progress on your good days, and that's simply not enough to build something real. Life is chaotic and unpredictable. Late nights happen, stress peaks, unexpected problems arrive, emotions fluctuate wildly. If your routine can't survive these real-world conditions, it's not strong enough yet. The real purpose of a plan isn't just to organize your time, it's to protect your progress. When you're tired, your decisions become emotional. You gravitate toward comfort. That's human nature, but your goals aren't built on comfort, they're built on consistency. A plan becomes your structure even when your mind doesn't want to cooperate. Some people believe they need to go all out every single day. That's a recipe for disaster. What actually matters is showing up in some way, no matter how small. Even a reduced version of your plan beats breaking the chain entirely. Normally walk for 30 minutes? Walk 10 today. Usually write a full page? Write a paragraph. You're not trying to win everything in a single day. You're just proving to yourself, I don't quit. That matters more than you realize. There's a deep, quiet confidence that comes from knowing you followed through when it was hard, not when everything was easy, not when conditions were perfect, but when they absolutely weren't. That kind of discipline builds something far deeper than results. It builds self-trust, and self-trust is the real fuel behind lasting transformation. Most people abandon their plans not because the goal is too difficult, but because they stop believing their effort actually matters. They miss one day, then 3, then a full week. Guilt builds. The plan feels distant. That's precisely why staying connected to your system matters most on low-energy days.
You don't need to execute perfectly, you just need to keep the pattern alive. Low energy doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're human. But humans can absolutely still act with intention. Even small acts of discipline keep you moving, keep the rhythm alive. One missed day can become a missed week if you're not careful. The best way to avoid that spiral is to act before you feel ready. Create a minimum version of your plan. Not every day needs to be extraordinary, but every day needs something. A low-effort fallback keeps your identity connected to what you're building. It keeps the habit in motion. This is how momentum stays alive, not through perfection, but through refusal to quit completely. Sometimes the hardest part of staying consistent when tired is the mental resistance. You tell yourself stories like, "This won't even matter," or "I'll just do double tomorrow." Those stories sound logical in the moment, but they're how you end up derailed. The truth is simpler. Something always beats nothing. A 5-minute effort is 5 minutes of progress. It means you stayed in the game. On low energy days, don't focus on the whole plan. Focus on the next small step. Break it down further. Don't think about the entire workout, just put on your shoes. Don't think about the entire task, just open your notebook. Once you start, momentum often kicks in. The hardest part is usually beginning. Also, don't be afraid to simplify. Your plan isn't a punishment, it's a tool. Some days need adjustments. That's not failure, that's flexibility. But adjusting isn't abandoning. There's a real difference. Adjusting means you still follow through, just at a lower level. Abandoning means you throw it away entirely. Your plan's purpose isn't perfection, it's to keep you present. It helps you act with intention even when your feelings want to lead you somewhere else. Over time, following through when you're depleted actually makes you stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You stop negotiating with excuses. You start leading your day even when it's incredibly hard. This discipline carries into everything. If you can keep a promise to yourself when you're exhausted, you can keep it through anything. That makes you more reliable, more focused, more grounded. People notice, but more importantly, you notice it. You begin respecting yourself differently.
Respect isn't built with words. It's built through action. Every time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's difficult, you send yourself a message. I follow through. I don't disappear when things get hard. That builds strength from the inside out. Following through also creates emotional stability. When you abandon your plan, guilt, stress, and doubt usually follow. But when you do even a little, you end the day feeling steady. You don't sleep wondering if you wasted it. You sleep knowing you stayed on your path. Imagine how different your year would look if you stayed consistent on low days, not just your high ones. Most people only move forward when they feel good. What if you moved forward regardless of how you felt, even just an inch? That's where real transformation happens, not in huge leaps, but in repeated steps through the difficult parts. Expect resistance. It's part of the process. But resistance doesn't mean stop. It means push gently. Keep moving. Honor your commitment, not your mood. Your mood changes every day. Your goal doesn't. In those exhausted moments, come back to why you started. You didn't commit to this because it would always be easy. You committed because you wanted to grow. And growth requires effort, especially when it's uncomfortable. You don't need more time. You need more follow-through. And that doesn't come from motivation. It comes from building the habit of showing up no matter how you feel. One small action, one honest step, one quiet win at a time. The truth is, tired days teach you the most. They test your patience, your character, your values. They show you what really matters. They strip away all the noise and leave one question. Will you do what you said you would do? Say yes, even in the smallest way. Say yes when no one's watching. Say yes when it's not exciting. Say yes when you're tired. Not because you feel strong, but because you're committed. And when 2026 arrives, you'll look back and know something different. You didn't just move forward on the good days.
You built something real on the hard ones. You followed through when it mattered most. You didn't wait for perfect energy. You acted anyway. That's how transformation begins, with one solid yes, even when it's hard. Every meaningful journey includes days that completely derail. That's not weakness, that's reality. Here's where most people fail. They believe one bad day means they're failing. One missed habit, one poor choice, one emotional moment, and suddenly the entire plan feels broken. So they quit. Not because they had to, but because they never learned how to recover. A bad day doesn't ruin a year. Quitting does. Human behavior follows patterns. When people feel disappointed in themselves, they usually escape instead of correct. They stop tracking. They stop trying. They avoid looking at their plan because it reminds them what they didn't do. This isn't laziness, it's emotional protection. But that protection comes with an enormous cost. Fixing a bad day begins with understanding that mistakes are information. They show you where your system failed. Maybe the plan was too heavy. Maybe the timing was wrong. Maybe emotion took the wheel. None of that means you should abandon ship. It means you should adjust. Strong people aren't the ones who never mess up. They're the ones who refuse to turn mistakes into identity. One bad choice doesn't make you undisciplined. One off day doesn't make you unreliable. Those labels only stick when you keep repeating the same patterns. A bad day often starts quietly. You wake late, you rush, you skip one habit, then another. Frustration builds. At some point you think the day is already lost. That thought is dangerous. It gives permission to stop caring. Here's the truth. A day isn't ruined until you decide it is. You can fix it at any point, even late in the evening. One good action doesn't erase what came before, but it restores direction. And direction matters more than perfection. Direction keeps you connected to the bigger picture. Quitting usually feels logical in the moment. You tell yourself you'll restart tomorrow, next week, next month. But restarting is always harder than continuing. Every quit creates distance. Every fix creates strength. The goal isn't to avoid bad days. The goal is to respond better when they happen. Response is where character lives. Anyone can perform when things are smooth. Very few people stay steady when things fall apart. Fixing a bad day starts with removing judgment. The moment you attack yourself, progress stops. Harsh self-criticism doesn't create resistance. Calm correction creates progress. Ask simple, practical questions. What went wrong? Why did it happen? What can I do now? These questions move you forward. They transform emotion into action. Sometimes fixing a bad day means doing less than more. If the day is already heavy, forcing a full routine can backfire. Instead, choose one or two actions that matter most. That keeps the pattern alive without creating extra pressure. You're not trying to prove anything on a bad day. You're trying to stay in the game. Staying in the game matters more than winning that day. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop quitting on yourself. You begin trusting yourself again. You realize that mistakes no longer end your effort. They simply redirect it. People who succeed long-term aren't emotionally dramatic about setbacks. They're practical. They treat errors like maintenance issues. Fix what's broken, strengthen what's weak, continue forward. A bad day often reveals where your plan needs support. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe your schedule was too tight. Maybe you skipped meals. These are signals. Ignoring them leads to burnout. Adjusting them leads to stability. Quitting feels like relief in the moment. Fixing creates lasting confidence. Relief fades quickly. Confidence stays. Bad days test your self-respect. When you fix instead of quit, you send yourself a powerful message. My goals matter even when conditions aren't ideal. That message builds inner strength. Don't wait for motivation to return after a bad day. Motivation follows action. Small action brings back clarity. Clarity brings back momentum. In those exhausted moments, come back to why you started. You didn't commit to this because it would always be easy. You committed because you wanted to grow. And growth requires effort, especially when it's uncomfortable. You don't need more time, you need more follow-through. And that doesn't come from motivation, it comes from building the habit of showing up no matter how you feel. One small action, one honest step, one quiet win at a time.
One of the most destructive patterns is all or nothing thinking. Either everything goes right or nothing matters. That thinking destroys consistency. Life doesn't work in extremes. Progress is built through small corrections. Even a bad week can be fixed if you respond early. One honest review, one reset, one clear decision. Delay is what turns setbacks into failure. When you fix instead of quit, you shorten recovery time. Instead of needing weeks to restart, you need hours. That difference compounds over a year. You should expect bad days. Planning for them makes you resilient. Decide in advance how you'll respond when things go off track. That removes panic when it happens. There's dignity in fixing your mistakes quietly. No announcements, no drama, just correction and forward movement. People often believe discipline means never falling. Discipline actually means getting back up quickly. Speed of recovery matters more than avoiding mistakes. Every time you fix a bad day, you practice leadership. You lead yourself out of frustration into action. That skill transfers into every area of life. You cannot build a strong year without learning how to recover. Life will interrupt, energy will drop, emotions will fluctuate. Recovery isn't optional, it's essential. Don't carry yesterday into today. Review it, learn from it, then release it. Carrying guilt wastes energy that could improve today. The habit of fixing builds emotional maturity. You stop reacting impulsively. You start responding intentionally. At year's end, you won't remember every perfect day. You'll remember the days you almost quit and didn't. Those days change how you see yourself. Quitting teaches your mind discomfort ends effort. Fixing teaches your mind discomfort is temporary. That lesson changes everything. Bad days aren't the enemy. Giving up is. Treat setbacks as part of the process, not as proof of failure. Fix what you can, adjust what you must, continue forward. That's how progress survives real life. That's how a plan lasts an entire year. That's how you arrive at 2026 knowing you didn't quit when things got hard. Chapter 6. Build change through small daily repetition. Change rarely happens through one massive action. It happens through what you repeat relentlessly, even when it seems too small to matter. And most people completely overlook this truth. They're convinced success comes from big effort or sudden breakthroughs. But real progress is quieter. It's found in the small actions you repeat every single day. Not just when you're excited, not just when inspiration strikes, but especially when life feels normal or even dull. It's easy to get caught chasing results. You want big movement, fast change, clear wins. But here's what you actually control. What you do today. That's your real power. Your life is shaped not by what you want, but by what you repeat. Every action you take is a vote for who you're becoming. Every healthy meal, every journal entry, every 5-minute walk, every small win, they accumulate. You might not notice the change immediately, but it's happening, slowly, steadily, building something real. Not through pressure, but through patience. People often say they're not seeing progress, but they're usually only checking the scoreboard. They forget that change doesn't announce itself immediately. You don't see transformation after one gym session. You don't feel smarter after one chapter. You don't become confident after one new habit. But keep going, and your brain starts to shift. Your body starts to respond. Your choices start feeling different. Repeating small actions isn't about working harder. It's about working consistently. Working hard for one day is easy. Anyone can do that.
Showing up every day, even briefly, even when it's not glamorous, that's where the edge is built. That's what separates people who transform their lives from those who stay stuck. The biggest mistake people make is completely underestimating the power of small. They think if it's not big, it's not worth doing. So they wait. They wait for better timing, a bigger plan, a perfect system. Meanwhile, people actually making progress are doing something simple and small today. Not later, not next week, now. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm creates momentum. Momentum leads to identity. You no longer need to convince yourself to act. You just do it because that's what you do. It becomes part of how you move through the world. Small actions are also easier to stay consistent with. Big commitments exhaust you quickly. You try to do too much too fast, and your energy burns out. Small actions protect your energy while still building progress. They're sustainable. You can do them even when you're tired, distracted, or not at your best. There's another benefit. Small daily actions reduce overwhelm. When you only focus on the big goal, it feels impossibly far away. That gap between where you are and where you want to be starts feeling crushing. But shift your attention to one clear action for today, and the pressure lifts. You stop feeling stuck and start feeling in motion. Ask yourself, what is one small thing I can do today that supports the kind of life I want to live? Don't make it dramatic. Don't wait for perfect timing. Just something simple and meaningful. That's enough. If you do it every day, you'll be shocked at what changes. 10 minutes a day becomes 60 hours a year. One healthy choice daily reshapes your entire diet. One conversation daily transforms relationships. One page a day becomes a book. It all stacks, but only if you keep repeating. Your brain learns through repetition. That's how habits form. That's how beliefs shift. That's how you rewire doubt into confidence. Not through one amazing day, but through hundreds of ordinary days where you followed through without applause. Yes, there will be days when it feels like nothing is happening. You'll question the point. You'll feel tempted to skip. That's where most people lose, not because they lacked talent, but because they couldn't stay consistent through boredom. The people who win aren't the most excited, they're the most stable. They don't chase intensity, they protect their habits. Small actions also keep you grounded. When life gets chaotic, a simple routine becomes your anchor. You return to it not because it's fancy, but because it keeps you steady. One walk, one reflection, one healthy meal, one reset. You don't need a total overhaul every time you feel off. You just need to return to something small you trust. You'll also learn to enjoy the process more. When you stop needing big results every week, you start taking pride in the action itself, the way you showed up, the way you stayed honest. That shift creates a calm sense of control over your life. You stop chasing, you start building. You don't need to impress anyone with your speed. You don't need to prove how fast you can change. What matters is that you're showing up in your life fully, quietly, intentionally, one action at a time, one day at a time.
One of the most destructive patterns is all or nothing thinking. Either everything goes right or nothing matters. That thinking destroys consistency. Life doesn't work in extremes. Progress is built through small corrections. Even a bad week can be fixed if you respond early. One honest review, one reset, one clear decision. Delay is what turns setbacks into failure. When you fix instead of quit, you shorten recovery time. Instead of needing weeks to restart, you need hours. That difference compounds over a year. You should expect bad days. Planning for them makes you resilient. Decide in advance how you'll respond when things go off track. That removes panic when it happens. There's dignity in fixing your mistakes quietly. No announcements, no drama, just correction and forward movement. People often believe discipline means never falling. Discipline actually means getting back up quickly. Speed of recovery matters more than avoiding mistakes. Every time you fix a bad day, you practice leadership. You lead yourself out of frustration into action. That skill transfers into every area of life. You cannot build a strong year without learning how to recover. Life will interrupt, energy will drop, emotions will fluctuate. Recovery isn't optional, it's essential. Don't carry yesterday into today. Review it, learn from it, then release it. Carrying guilt wastes energy that could improve today. The habit of fixing builds emotional maturity. You stop reacting impulsively. You start responding intentionally. At year's end, you won't remember every perfect day. You'll remember the days you almost quit and didn't. Those days change how you see yourself. Quitting teaches your mind discomfort ends effort. Fixing teaches your mind discomfort is temporary. That lesson changes everything. Bad days aren't the enemy, giving up is. Treat setbacks as part of the process, not as proof of failure. Fix what you can, adjust what you must, continue forward. That's how progress survives real life. That's how a plan lasts an entire year. That's how you arrive at 2026, knowing you didn't quit when things got hard. Chapter 6. Build change through small daily repetition. Change rarely happens through one massive action. It happens through what you repeat relentlessly, even when it seems too small to matter. And most people completely overlook this truth. They're convinced success comes from big effort or sudden breakthroughs, but real progress is quieter. It's found in the small actions you repeat every single day. Not just when you're excited, not just when inspiration strikes, but especially when life feels normal or even dull. It's easy to get caught chasing results. You want big movement, fast change, clear wins. But here's what you actually control: what you do today. That's your real power. Your life is shaped not by what you want, but by what you repeat. Every action you take is a vote for who you're becoming. Every healthy meal, every journal entry, every 5-minute walk, every small win, they accumulate. You might not notice the change immediately, but it's happening slowly, steadily, building something real, not through pressure, but through patience. People often say they're not seeing progress, but they're usually only checking the scoreboard. They forget that change doesn't announce itself immediately. You don't see transformation after one gym session. You don't feel smarter after one chapter. You don't become confident after one new habit. But keep going and your brain starts to shift. Your body starts to respond. Your choices start feeling different. Repeating small actions isn't about working harder, it's about working consistently. Working hard for one day is easy. Anyone can do that. Showing up every day, even briefly, even when it's not glamorous, that's where the edge is built. That's what separates people who transform their lives from those who stay stuck. The biggest mistake people make is completely underestimating the power of small. They think if it's not big, it's not worth doing, so they wait. They wait for better timing, a bigger plan, a perfect system. Meanwhile, people actually making progress are doing something simple and small today, not later, not next week, now. Repetition builds a rhythm. Rhythm creates momentum. Momentum leads to identity. You no longer need to convince yourself to act. You just do it because that's what you do. It becomes part of how you move through the world. Small actions are also easier to stay consistent with. Big commitments exhaust you quickly. You try to do too much too fast and your energy burns out. Small actions protect your energy while still building progress. They're sustainable. You can do them even when you're tired, distracted, or not at your best. There's another benefit. Small daily actions reduce overwhelm. When you only focus on the big goal, it feels impossibly far away. That gap between where you are and where you want to be starts feeling crushing. But shift your attention to one clear action for today, and the pressure lifts. You stop feeling stuck and start feeling in motion. Ask yourself, what is one small thing I can do today that supports the kind of life I want to live? Don't make it dramatic. Don't wait for perfect timing. Just something simple and meaningful.
That's enough. If you do it every day, you'll be shocked at what changes. 10 minutes a day becomes 60 hours a year. One healthy choice daily reshapes your entire diet. One conversation daily transforms relationships. One page a day becomes a book. It all stacks, but only if you keep repeating. Your brain learns through repetition. That's how habits form. That's how beliefs shift. That's how you rewire doubt into confidence. Not through one amazing day, but through hundreds of ordinary days where you followed through without applause. Yes, there will be days when it feels like nothing is happening. You'll question the point. You'll feel tempted to skip. That's where most people lose, not because they lacked talent, but because they couldn't stay consistent through boredom. The people who win aren't the most excited, they're the most stable. They don't chase intensity, they protect their habits. Small actions also keep you grounded. When life gets chaotic, a simple routine becomes your anchor. You return to it not because it's fancy, but because it keeps you steady. One walk, one reflection, one healthy meal, one reset. You don't need a total overhaul every time you feel off. You just need to return to something small you trust. You'll also learn to enjoy the process more. When you stop needing big results every week, you start taking pride in the action itself, the way you showed up, the way you stayed honest. That shift creates a calm sense of control over your life. You stop chasing, you start building. You don't need to impress anyone with your speed. You don't need to prove how fast you can change. What matters is that you're showing up in your life fully, quietly, intentionally, one action at a time, one day at a time.
Make it simple. Make it doable. Make it yours. Choose actions you can repeat even when you're busy, even when emotions are running high, even when motivation has disappeared entirely. That's the real test. Can you still show up when life isn't helping you? If yes, you're unstoppable. Start by building a list of 3 to 5 small actions that genuinely matter to you. Not things that sound impressive, but things that feel right. Actions that match your actual values and goals. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's stretching. Maybe it's tracking your spending. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you care about. Whatever it is, make sure it's small enough that you can do it daily without burning out. Track it. Review it. Be kind to yourself. You won't be perfect. You'll miss some days. But if you keep returning to the routine, you win. Because showing up again after a miss is still repetition. It still counts. One day, you'll look back and realize how much changed. Not because you had a perfect year, but because you didn't stop. You didn't chase magic. You didn't wait for permission. You just kept going, quietly, honestly, patiently. That's what builds something real. Not noise or hype, just daily action on repeat. When 2026 arrives, you won't need to hope for change. You'll be living proof that small things done every single day create something big. You won't just talk about growth, you'll be living it. And the person you've become will thank you for every simple step you took when no one else was watching. Chapter 7. Persevere when progress feels invisible. There will come a moment in your journey when you're doing the work, showing up every day, following your plan, and still wondering, why isn't this moving faster? This is one of the hardest moments to face, not because the task is too difficult, but because your effort feels invisible. You're investing your time, your energy, your discipline. The results simply aren't showing up the way you expected. This is where most people start self-doubting, not because they don't care, but because progress feels too slow to justify continuing. When progress stalls, your mind asks dangerous questions. What's the point? Am I doing this wrong? Why is it taking so long? These questions don't help. They only feed uncertainty. Uncertainty pushes you towards stopping, not because you're weak, but because you've lost sight of why you began. This is why consistency matters more than speed. If you rely on fast results to stay committed, you'll quit the moment the process slows. But if you commit to the process itself, regardless of speed, you become unshakable. You no longer need overnight transformation. You just need to know you're moving forward.
Slow progress doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're building something real, something that lasts. Quick changes often fade. What stays is built slowly, brick by brick, day by day. Yes, it's hard. It feels unfair. You look around and it seems like others are flying past you, but what you don't see is how many of those people quit when their fast start runs out of fuel. What you're building is different. It's steady. It's grounded. Most importantly, it's yours. Every time you stay consistent without seeing results, you're training part of yourself that most people never develop. You're building patience, trust, and long-term thinking. These are skills that transcend your current goal. They reshape how you handle everything: your health, your work, your relationships, your identity. When progress slows, shift your focus. Stop measuring success by outcomes. Start measuring it by actions. Ask yourself, did I do what I said I'd do today? If yes, that is success. That is progress. Here's the truth. Results always come later. You plant seeds, water them daily. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. Then, one day, something small appears. Then something stronger. Then it grows. But if you stop watering just because you don't see the plant yet, you'll never see what it could become. Consistency is a form of belief. It says, I trust that what I'm doing matters even when I can't prove it yet. That kind of belief gives you power. It keeps you going when motivation fades. It reminds you that showing up today matters, even if nobody sees it. If you're tracking your habits, track more than just wins. Track the fact that you followed your plan even when it was boring, even when you were exhausted, even when life got in the way. That kind of consistency adds up slowly, quietly, powerfully. People who succeed aren't the ones who avoid slow seasons. They're the ones who walk through them without stopping. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to always feel good. You just need to keep showing up for yourself. There will be days when your progress feels completely invisible. You'll look at your results and feel like nothing has shifted. But that's when the real test begins. That's when you decide whether your commitment is based on convenience or on your actual values. The truth is, you won't always feel progress. Some of the most important growth happens internally. Your discipline gets stronger, your thinking becomes clearer, your emotions become steadier. These things don't show up on any chart, but they change everything about how you live. Remember, slow progress is still progress. One step forward, no matter how small, moves you closer. Even holding the line, staying steady without slipping backwards, is a win. It means you're not going backwards. It means you're building a foundation that will hold up when pressure hits. When things slow down, stay connected to your why. Remind yourself why you started. What were you trying to fix? What kind of life were you tired of living? What kind of person were you trying to become? That purpose matters more than any short-term result. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to question things, but don't let those emotions turn into decisions. Feelings come and go, but consistency is a decision you make in advance. You choose to keep going, not because today feels exciting, but because you know where you're headed. You're not doing this just for results. You're doing this for the kind of person you become by showing up every day with intention. The kind of person who follows through, the kind of person who keeps promises, the kind of person who stays steady under pressure. And one day, the results will show up. You'll see the numbers shift. You'll feel the energy return. You'll look in the mirror and notice the difference. But by then, something more important will have already happened. You'll know you're someone who doesn't quit just because things take time. That kind of self-respect cannot be bought. It must be earned. It's earned through repetition, patience, and belief when nothing outside is confirming it yet. So if things feel slow right now, stay with it. Keep moving. Keep repeating. Keep showing up. Don't change the goal just because the timeline feels uncomfortable. The pace might not be what you expected, but the path is still right.
You will get there, but only if you refuse to let slow progress convince you to stop. The person you're becoming is built in these moments, the ones where it would be easy to walk away, but you don't. You step, you work, you trust. And when the year ends, you'll realize that the pace didn't matter. What mattered was that you stayed consistent, even when it was slow, even when it was quiet, even when it was hard. That's what built your progress. That's what built your strength. That's what built you. Chapter 8. Evolve your plan as life changes. You can plan your year with structure and precision, but life will still find ways to shift. That's not failure. That's life being exactly what it is: unpredictable, emotional, sometimes messy, sometimes beautiful, and rarely working in straight lines. You can't control everything around you. What you can control is how flexible you are when things don't go your way. The ability to adjust without abandoning is one of the most valuable skills you'll ever build. When most people create a plan, they imagine ideal conditions. They assume they'll always have energy, time, focus, motivation. And when those conditions don't materialize, they panic. They feel like the plan is broken. But the truth is, the plan is just a tool, and tools can be reshaped. The goal isn't to follow the exact same structure no matter what. The goal is to keep moving forward even if the path has to shift. When life changes, you have two choices: fight reality and feel stuck, or adapt your plan and keep momentum. Most people unconsciously choose the first. They try to stick with the same routine even when it no longer fits. They feel overwhelmed. They fall behind. Eventually, they stop completely, not because they lost interest, but because they didn't know how to adjust. You have to check in with your life regularly, weekly, monthly. Ask simple questions. Is this plan still working? Are these habits still realistic? Do these goals still match what I actually care about? The answers might surprise you. What worked 2 months ago might not work now. What felt important before might not matter anymore. That doesn't mean you're inconsistent. It means you're human. Adjustment is not weakness, it's wisdom. It means you're paying attention to what's happening instead of just forcing things. A strong plan bends, it doesn't break. If your current strategy is causing more stress than progress, it's time to step back and rethink. That's not quitting, that's leadership. Sometimes your environment changes, new responsibilities, a move, a shift in work or family demands. Sometimes your energy shifts. Maybe you're more tired, maybe something unexpected happened. When these things show up, the old version of your plan might not fit. If you try to force it, you'll burn out. That's when you need to take a breath and rebuild around your current reality, not your ideal one. Ask yourself, what's the most important thing right now? What can I realistically do with the time and energy I have? What's the version of my goal that fits today, not yesterday? The best systems aren't impressive, they're adaptable. If your system only survives when everything goes right, it's not a system, it's a fantasy. Real systems are flexible. They allow space for life to interrupt and reshape without falling apart. There's also emotional change. Maybe your mindset is different than at the start of the year. Maybe you're dealing with stress, sadness, doubt. Maybe something personal shifted. That emotional shift might mean your motivation is different, your needs are different. You have to factor that into your plan. Ignoring emotion doesn't create strength, it creates pressure, and pressure without support leads to collapse. Give yourself permission to make changes without guilt. You're not supposed to push through everything like a machine. You're supposed to move with awareness. Adjusting the plan isn't about doing less, it's about doing what works. There's nothing powerful about sticking with something that no longer fits. Real strength is being able to pause, reassess, and rebuild. Maybe your goal needs to be broken into even smaller steps. Maybe your schedule needs more breathing room. Maybe the tools you're using aren't helpful anymore. That's all fine. You're allowed to change things as you go. You're supposed to. One of the smartest things you can do is set a recurring time to review and refine. Once a month, check in. What's working? What's not? Where are the friction points? Where are you losing motivation? Then make the necessary changes. That simple practice can keep you moving all year. Some people resist adjusting because they feel like they failed. They think it means they didn't plan well. That's not true. You can't predict everything. You don't need to. You just need to stay honest about what's happening now.
Flexibility is a skill. Like any skill, it gets stronger the more you practice it. The first time you change your plan, it might feel uncomfortable. Over time, you'll get better at reading your own patterns. You'll know when to shift. You'll stop feeling guilty about doing it. When life changes, you don't have to start over. You just have to pivot. Sometimes that pivot is small, a change in time, a change in method. Sometimes it's big, a new goal, a different routine. Either way, you're not losing progress, you're preserving it. You're giving your effort a chance to survive real life. Every adjustment is a decision to stay in the game, to not quit just because things got hard. That mindset keeps you grounded through chaos. It keeps your momentum alive even in the middle of challenge. You're not building a perfect year, you're building a resilient one. A year that can handle setbacks, stress, and surprises. A year that bends when needed but keeps moving forward. That kind of year doesn't happen by chance. It's built by someone who knows how to adjust when the plan stops working. It's okay to outgrow your plan. That means you're learning. That means you're evolving. Don't get attached to what used to work. Stay committed to what works now. Your life isn't frozen. Your plan shouldn't be either. Give yourself permission to shift. Give yourself the grace to change direction. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just adjusting. And if you keep adjusting, you'll keep progressing. By year's end, the plan you started with might look completely different from the one you're following. That's a good thing. That means you stayed connected to real life. That means you responded with awareness instead of resistance. You're not chasing perfection. You're building a process that works even when life doesn't go to script. That process is what carries you to the finish line, not the first plan, but the plan that keeps evolving with you.
Chapter 9. Measure daily effort, not distant dreams. Big dreams are exciting to think about. They feel powerful when you talk about them. They sound inspiring when you write them down. But they're not what actually moves your life forward. What transforms you is the effort you make each day when nobody's watching, the quiet discipline, the steady follow-through, the small choices that seem invisible in the moment but build your future step by step. This is where most people completely miss the mark. They spend more time dreaming than doing. They measure progress by how far they still are from the goal, instead of looking at the work they actually put in. They feel behind, not because they're not trying, but because they keep comparing their effort to an ideal finish line instead of looking at what they've actually accomplished. You can't measure success by how fast results show up. You have to measure it by how consistent your actions are. Tracking your daily effort is how you stay grounded. It's how you stay honest. And most importantly, it's how you build confidence. Because you can't always control results, but you absolutely can control your actions. Every day, you wake up with a choice. Take a step forward or stay still. That choice doesn't require a new dream. It requires direction. It requires you to ask one simple question. Did I do what I could today? When you track effort instead of outcomes, you get a clearer picture of your habits, your behavior, and your real level of discipline. Effort doesn't mean perfection. It means doing something meaningful with the time you have. Planned to read and only had 5 minutes? You still read. That's effort. Planned to work out but only had energy for a short walk? You still moved. That counts more than any vision board or goal list. Tracking big dreams alone becomes discouraging if all you see is the gap between now and where you want to be. You start feeling like you're failing, when in reality you might be doing exactly what you need to. You just haven't given yourself credit for showing up. Effort tracking keeps you connected to what matters. It reminds you that consistency is more important than excitement. That progress isn't about speed, but direction. That real change comes from momentum, not motivation. Write it down. Don't rely on memory. Keep a simple log, not of how much you achieved, but of whether you did the work. A check mark, a sentence, a note, something you can look at and say, yes, I showed up today. That kind of tracking builds deep trust with yourself.
When you track effort, patterns start emerging. You learn when you work best. You learn which habits are strong and which need support. You can see where you're slipping before it becomes a full breakdown. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. People say they want to improve, but they don't pay attention to how they actually live. They measure their lives in highlights, milestones, achievements, finished goals, but those are rare moments. The real story of your life is told in the regular days, the ones that feel boring, the ones that don't get attention. Those days matter more than you realize. Effort tracking also helps remove guilt. If a result didn't show up yet, but you did your part, you don't need to feel discouraged. You didn't fail. You're still building. Most frustration people feel comes from chasing the dream while ignoring the process. The process is where your power lives. The dream is just a direction. The process is what you actually live with. Your habits will either build your identity or break your belief in yourself. When you track effort, you're keeping those habits visible. You're reminding yourself what you're doing and why. That reminder keeps you committed, especially when progress feels slow. It's also humbling to track effort honestly. You see the truth. You stop lying to yourself about consistency. You realize how often you said, "I'll do it tomorrow." But that honesty is helpful because once you see the truth, you can improve it. The people who get results don't have stronger dreams, they have stronger follow-through. And that follow-through is built on daily action, not occasional bursts of motivation. Effort is what gets you through tough days. Effort is what keeps you moving when you're tired, distracted, discouraged. Don't let the simplicity fool you. One small action tracked every day can completely change how you see yourself. It makes you feel responsible. It makes you feel present. You're not just going through the motions, you're aware. You're focused. You're showing up for your own life. Over time, those tiny check-ins turn into a powerful story. You can look back and see months of steady effort. That record gives you proof that you're not stuck. You're not lazy. You're not failing. You've been building something quietly, slowly, honestly. Effort doesn't lie. You either did the work or you didn't. That kind of clarity is freeing. You no longer need to wonder if you're doing enough. You can see it, you can feel it, you can trust it. And when you do have a breakthrough, when the results finally show up, you'll know they weren't random. They came from those ordinary days when you tracked the effort that no one else saw. You don't have to wait for year's end to feel successful. You can feel proud today if you know you gave your best, even if it wasn't perfect, even if it was messy. What matters is that you tried, that you kept going. Big dreams don't build themselves. They need structure. They need systems. They need effort. That effort might not always feel rewarding right away, but over time it becomes the difference between those who talk about changing and those who actually change. So make the shift. Stop chasing only the big win. Start noticing your small wins. Start measuring what you can control, your effort, your consistency, your ability to act even when you don't feel like it. Track what you're doing, not just what you're dreaming. And by the time the dream shows up, you'll already be the kind of person who knows how to keep it, because you didn't just imagine it, you worked for it, one step at a time, one day at a time, all year long. Chapter 10. Step into 2026 knowing you showed up. When the final day of 2025 comes, you won't remember every detail of the year. You won't recall every habit, every step, every single effort, but what will stay with you is the feeling, the sense that you either showed up fully or you didn't. That quiet reflection is what counts more than any single outcome. Because when the new year begins, it's not the goals that carry over, it's who you've become through the work you did. Showing up is not just about doing what's on your to-do list. It's about being present in your life. It's about deciding each day to take yourself seriously, not perfectly, but honestly, not for show, but because it matters.
When you show up, you're telling the world and yourself that your time matters, your growth matters, your effort matters. Entering 2026 knowing you showed up isn't about checking every box or reaching every milestone. It's about being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I gave it what I had. On the good days, on the tough ones, on the days that felt like nothing was working. It's the trust that builds when you continue anyway. Most people start the year with energy and fade when it gets hard. But you're not aiming to impress in the first month. You're aiming to finish with pride. That pride doesn't come from sudden success. It comes from small choices made over and over, showing up when it was easier not to, doing the work when you didn't feel like it, holding the line when nobody else could see your effort. You don't need to be loud about your discipline. You don't need to post it or prove it. What matters is what you know about yourself at the end. Did you avoid yourself, or did you face your patterns and take responsibility? Did you hide from the hard parts, or did you show up when it counted most? There's no need for drama, no need for perfection. The real goal is presence, that quiet kind of presence that says, I was here, I tried, I meant it. You don't fake that, you earn it. Your routines didn't need to be flawless. Some days your best effort might have looked like just getting out of bed and doing one small task. That still counts. Showing up doesn't mean you were always strong. It means you were always real. You didn't wait for perfect energy. You worked with what you had. Maybe some of your goals shifted. Maybe some plans didn't work out. That's not failure. That's life. What matters is that you stayed in the process. You adapted. You didn't walk away just because the outcome didn't come quickly. That kind of steadiness builds inner strength. You won't regret the effort you gave yourself. You won't wish you skipped more days. You won't look back and say, I should have done less. You'll be proud that you stayed focused when distractions were everywhere. You'll be proud that you didn't let temporary feelings control your long-term future. Consistency isn't something you chase. It's something you create. Through effort, through rhythm, through patience. You didn't need motivation every day. You needed discipline. And when discipline was hard, you needed purpose. That purpose is what kept you from disappearing when the days got overwhelming. You're not walking into 2026 hoping you can change. You're walking in knowing you already are. The change started when you decided to stop waiting for the right time. When you stopped chasing perfection and started practicing intention. The version of you that began the year is different from the one standing here now, not because everything went smoothly, but because you earned your growth. Some days you probably didn't want to keep going. Some days you thought about giving up. That's completely normal. But you didn't quit. You paused. Maybe you adjusted. You struggled, but you didn't give up. And that decision matters more than you think. It's easy to look back at a year and focus on what didn't happen, but that's not how progress works. Progress is built through every moment you kept your word, even when the results were slow. Progress is what happens when you say, this is worth doing even when no one sees it but me. When you reflect on the year, think about who you were becoming each time you showed up. That's the real reward. The new habits, the stronger mindset, the better emotional control, the improved focus. These things aren't trophies you hold. They're the foundation you walk on. They're proof that your time wasn't wasted. You made choices that built something deeper than just external success. You created structure. You earned trust with yourself. You became someone who can rely on their own effort. That is worth more than any short-term outcome, because that strength stays with you into every part of your life, your work, your relationships, your health, your goals. As the year ends, let go of what didn't go exactly right. Release the moments you wish had been better. Forgive the days you slipped. What matters now is that you've made it through with self-respect. You built a life you were present for. You followed through. You showed up. You don't need a standing ovation. You don't need to compare your path to anyone else. You just need to know deep down that you gave your effort an honest chance. That's how you enter a new year with peace, not with pressure to start over, but with clarity that you are already in motion. That clarity is powerful. It gives you freedom from regret. It gives you momentum.
It gives you space to dream even bigger because now you know you can trust yourself to follow through. Your life doesn't change from one perfect day. It changes when you stop quitting, when you keep showing up through uncertainty, when you realize you don't need to feel ready to take action, you just need to act with purpose. So, as 2026 begins, don't hope for change. Know that it's already happening. Know that you've been doing the work. Know that you don't need to start from zero. You're already way ahead because you stayed in it. You're not hoping this year will be different. You're entering it with evidence, with growth, with strength, and most of all, with the kind of pride that only comes from doing what you said you'd do. Every single time it mattered most, you showed up. You stayed honest. You made the year count. And that's something no one can ever take from you.